We go to our last and third theme of today, and I'm very excited about this one as well. This one actually is around employee productivity. Slack's 2023 State of Work report found that, for instance, in the UK, 30%, that is 30, of an average worker's day is lost to activities merely meant to appear productive. When the internet became mainstream years ago and emails made their entrance into our world, expectations were that people's productivity would skyrocket. It didn't. Partially, perhaps, to the rise of smartphones and those being a big distraction for people also in the workplace. But partially, perhaps also because human beings simply physically and mentally cannot be productive 8 hours a day. What if we reached maximum productivity already years ago? The arrival of generative AI such as ChatGPT seems to have many people believe once again that employees' productivity will for sure see a big increase. But will it? Or will nothing really change in terms of our productivity? And if not, is it then perhaps time for us to rethink the 8-hour workday? And that brings me to our statement. Employee productivity. We've reached maximum productivity a long time ago. It's time to introduce a 4-hour work day. Elena, what do you vote?
No.
Linnea, what do you vote?
No, but.
All right. Okay. Elena, I'll start with you with this one.
For me, the statement is flawed. How can we say, I challenge anyone who says we've reached maximum productivity? It's like I've reached eternal serenity or things like that. Define to me, in technical terms, as I said, I am an engineer, and in practical terms. We just had a debate around the notion of productivity needs to evolve in the minds of, as such, by default, it means that we haven't reached maximum productivity because we don't even have the definition. So as such, apart from all the changes that we're seeing that redefines productivity and things like that, so my no is on this part of the statement. If we are to go for 4 days, 3 days, 5 days, it would be on a different rationale rather than the productivity rationale.
Okay, clear. Linnea.
Right. So I think the reason for my no is that I don't believe necessarily in fixed hours. I think that the statement of like, we should work 8 hours, 6 hours, 4 hours, I would argue we need to have flexible hours and crystal clear like expectations, goals. And if you reach those goals in 2 hours or 10 hours, and if you create the impact that you can and that you're satisfied, I don't think it's relevant to count hours. So I think it's about having a flexible design of your work week, work day, in combination with making sure that we can have a productive day, saying that like using mornings for deep work, afternoons for meetings where we're often less focused. So for me, it's more the flexibility that's important rather than the exact number of hours. But then also to like, I guess, continue with it, no, because we do see a lot of super interesting results from these trial outs of the 4-day work week. My hunch or hypothesis would be that it works because when we get limited hours, we need to reduce all the unnecessary fluff that tends to find its way into our calendars. And in a trial period, we will remove that. I think if everyone will move over to a shorter work day or work week, that will be the new norm. And then we won't be as forced to remove the unnecessary fluff in our work week. So I think it's more about, again, flexibility, super clear targets, and constantly working with removing the unnecessary things rather than forcing that into a specific amount of hours where we will gradually maybe get back to those behaviors that are decreasing our productivity.
I'm on a bit on the yes, but, Linnea, to your rationale. So directionally and theoretically, I agree it's more about goal setting and things like that. Although if a person can do it in 2 hours, you need to see why and whether you've given the right goals, and if it's 10 and so on.
Sure.
But apart from that, it's not only about goal setting and delivery. It's about interactions. It's about cross-pollination. And this needs time. This needs face time. This needs value there. So there have been quite a few companies that have put, endless, you can take any holidays you want, whenever, as long as you, there have been other more radical cases. Personally, I have not seen a case, or I have speaking with them, although I'm not an expert or deep dive in there, where I say, okay, I've had a light bulb moment. Oh, okay, I see how it is done. So we need to see some practical results. But again, we see cycles, the same like working remotely, hybrid, and so on. We haven't got the balance right. And the balance is around time together, interactions together, goal setting, and not being too rigid on only KPIs like time, but also adding additional indicators.
I wonder if it's not, because I think you had an interesting point, Elena, when you started talking about what does productivity mean. Is it not perhaps time that we actually have a discussion around what productivity looks like to us right now in 2023? Because are we maybe still hanging on to a definition of productivity that still stems from probably maybe even the Industrial Revolution, when most of us were working in factories? Okay, I see both of you nodding really enthusiastically. Yes. So Linnea, I'll start with that. I'll start with you, sorry.
I think that's a great point. And I think that's why we end up in a discussion around number of hours, number of days, because we define productivity in time, which I don't think is necessarily right. I would argue that we need to define productivity in impact, like the outcome, the result that you actually create. That will look very differently for different roles. For some roles, it's you're producing X, and for some roles, it's like you're innovating or you're problem solving, but it's the impact that is relevant. And I think that goes back to why I think the flexible work hours in that sense makes more sense to me, because then we remove the view of productivity in number of hours.
Elena, you were also nodding very enthusiastically.
Yeah, I would add the extra layer on impact, on sustainability, on sustainable impact, not versus opportunistic impact or versus productivity that measures the deliverables over a specific period of time and the impact over that you see, but you need to see longer line of sight. Is this impact sustainable? Does it ensure the growth and the sustainable growth of a company or not? And that is something that we have not, I believe, yet mastered and put there.
I think that is a valid point. I think perhaps one last element here, though, is, I'm going to speak for myself now, but as a human being, it is very hard for me to be focused for, let's be a little bit even conservative here, for 6-7 hours a day, right? And also, some people have their peak of productivity in the morning, whereas others have it in the afternoon or in the evening, which might come back a little bit to the flexible hours kind of thing. But I do think, though, that there something fundamentally might need rethinking, because I believe personally that it is impossible for us to be actually contributing and functioning during 8 hours a day. I think that might be a last interesting thought for today's discussion. Elena, I'll start with you.
Again, it comes down to productivity. What does productivity? So you're saying I can't be focused 6 hours per day. Indeed. The question is, why do you need to be focused 6 hours per day? You might need to have a specific time where you are a sprinter, where your adrenaline kicks in, And you can still be productive by doing your reports or your whatever things that need to be there. So it's again about having these conversations and having a common understanding. There are also tips and tricks on, we have so many assessments and so many discussions on how a person performs when and so on. Just put it out there, see what's the best for the holistically having a productive. Again, I start, the more I say this word, the more I don't like it. Being effective, happy, efficient, another word, let's say, and see how the sum of the parts maximizes the total.
Linnea.
I think it is impossible to be productive for 8 hours a day. I think the whole trying to get ahead by working many hours isn't necessarily a good solution, even though that's still valued a lot in business. Personally, I would much rather optimize the workday to get as much done, as much impact done. For me, that is like taking a longer break at lunch and going for a run. And then it's like a new day in the afternoon. I have small kids. I pick them up early. Then I work at night for an hour. So like divide things up. So like, again, I think some people will be able to sit for many hours. I doubt that they are as productive as they could have been. And I think we do need to optimize for like the individual needs, how like the human brain actually works. So I think there's definitely something there. And like, I think my solution, or what we're trying to do at Alva, is really to offer like the flexibility to be able to plan based on what works well for you. Like start earlier, work later, take longer breaks, fit in family life, interests, whatever, so that it's less of a like, this is when you need to perform. It can really help both the individual and the organization if we can give more lead time in when work needs to be done.
I think you tap a very important point, which is where you are in your personal journey. Like you say, Linnea, you have young kids. I remember a long time ago how it was. My kids are 24 and 21. They don't want me, need me, nor. So I have different needs now. There might be about my self-evolution or what is meaningful for my future or things like that. It is more of understanding, even if we get to a point where we have a common understanding on what productivity means, the how to get there and how to make all the bits of the puzzle fit together into a puzzle is very important. Because if it helps you being more productive to work, to run for 2 hours in between, but the rest of the team needs these 2 hours there to do something else because their personal journey is another way. We need to find ways that work for everyone, be it compromises, be it innovative solutions, be it workarounds, but still understand how the how affects the whole.
Yeah. And we might need to find a different word for productivity. That might be something for another time in another debate, right? I want to thank you both very much for being here today with me and also for the fantastic conversations that we had. So thank you very much, Linnea. Thank you very much, Elena.
Pleasure being here. So much fun.
Thank you, Neely. Very thought-provoking and very enjoyable. Linnea, thank you very much for being my debate buddy and me yours.
And thank you everybody for tuning in for this episode of HR Debatable. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Do feel free to share your thoughts on the episode with us, and I will say see you soon for another episode of HR Debatable.